Hello, welcome. We are joining with another program at Advocata Institute. And as you know, Advocata Institute channel, we basically bring out economic content which is relevant for Sri Lanka, and we try to make it simple as possible. But this content is somewhat academic and somewhat theoretical, but it doesn't mean it's not practical. We are trying to bring that academic and theoretical work which is practical and which works. And we are delighted to have Dr. Sarath Rajapathirana, Academic Chair of Advocata Institute, joining with us. Dr. Rajapathirana, welcome to Advocata Studios.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it. Yeah.
And very importantly, we are planning to have these type of conversations quite often,
Right.
because earlier we had one conversation as the master classes. You can go and check on our channel the discussions that we did with Dr. Rajapathirana on global trade. And we will also make sure we will add those links in the description so you can go back and refer. But the good news is now we can have these conversations quite often. Probably we are trying to do it every week on a selected topic for about 12 weeks, 12 episodes on discussing multiple issues on economics. So then you can learn and see what is the future of Sri Lanka and what basically we have to do to take Sri Lanka to the next stage. So additionally to being the academic chair, one thing that you should know about Dr. Rajapathirana is he loves singing and he loves W.D. Amaradeva's songs, and he loves playing tabla,
Right.
Which will not come often in his very detailed academic work and
Right.
research papers. Dr. Rajapathirana, with that, let's start the conversation.
Yes.
Now, Sri Lankans generally speak about wealth and poverty, and they think Sri Lanka is a rich country, some think we are a poor country, and there are different categorization by the World Bank, IMF, all sorts of things. Actually, in economic terms, how do you measure wealth?
I think it's important point to make between wealth and income.
Okay.
So wealth is more scarce than income, right? You can have everybody who is employed will have an income, but wealth is in addition to that has some money, some assets put away, and so if you use that criteria, we have more people who are incomes are high relatively to say, shall we say, from with other countries. On the other hand, I want to tell you, if a man from Mars were to visit us, they'll see all these cars and around there and say, what type of poor are you talking about, right? So I don't think we are poor that way.
Okay.
We are poor in the sense that not all are well employed, right? So there's a question of good employment that pays you well to maintain your family and and send children to school and all that. In that sense, we have to go some way. But when you look at the cars on the road, there's no sign of poverty. But of course there is poverty. There are poor people.
Absolutely.
And we define poverty as a poverty level that the World Bank used. And it used to be, if I remember right, $1.75 if you have for a day, then you are above the poverty line, and so that also has a lot of problems, that type of definition also.
But interesting thought that you mentioned on the bringing the wealth and the income
Yeah.
narrative into this conversation. So what you mean is we have to create more and more employment opportunities so everyone will have a job to do, and of course doing a job is you're not doing something just for the sake of doing
Yeah.
it. It has to add some value for someone else's life. So altogether we move to the next stage. Did I miss anything out?
No, that's right. I think the distinction is very important. A lot of people don't think in terms of wealth on the one hand and income on the other. Actually, another way of putting it may not be very accurate, but accumulated income.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yes.
Yeah, accumulated income.
And Dr. Rajapathirana, now in the conversation of wealth and income, the next question is on economic growth.
Yes.
What we heard after Sri Lanka going through this crisis, I think we are at the tail end of the debt restructuring process. I have seen our own chairman Murtuza basically mentioning the next stage. I think everyone is saying the next stage is growth. grow the economy, grow the
Absolutely.
economy.
Absolutely.
What does it mean and why this topic is important?
Yeah. I think growth is important because growth relates to everything. If you want to have something that is common to the whole economy, that is growth. You want to be able to grow. And what is growth? Growth is having a higher level of income than you had maybe 1 month ago. And poverty is a sort of more like something that people have when they recognize it. They don't have enough money to feed their children or send them to schools or buy their clothes and things like that. That is poverty. And that so growth is something that is an antidote to poverty.
Right.
So if you grow, you can grow out of poverty. Yeah.
So that's why you say the growth is very important.
Growth is very important. Yeah.
So what we need to do to grow our economy?
Yeah, I think there are 1 or 2 ways to think about it. To ask, why are we here?
Yes.
Why are we quote unquote poor?
Exactly.
And that poor is a relative idea, you know. Somebody who is poor in another part of the world would be rich here and vice versa. So we have to be careful about how you define it. There's a poverty in the World Bank used to have what a poverty rate, and that is that looking at it, the diet, do they get a sort of balanced diet, ability to sort of survive. I think there are better way of living which I have just forgotten now, in the sense that when they computed that rate, they look at the calorie intake. That was one.
Calorie and the protein intake.
And put it together and see how does it look like. So actually, as you know, I worked in many countries.
Yes.
From our point of view, Sri Lanka is not from my point of view, Sri Lanka is not a poor country because I have seen very poor countries.
Okay.
I worked on Ethiopia. At one stage, the World Bank also I think wrongly called it per capita income was $100 a year. I mean, they are doing well. And their main problem was that they had no irrigation, no water control and things. So later, you know, a very good prime minister came, and he was able to get it going. And there's a new man who is even better. The earlier one, young person who did this, unfortunately died of a terrible cancer. So now they are again back. So relative to Ethiopia, we are rich.
But relative to someone else,
we are not rich. Yeah.
Now, I like the thought that you brought in, that taking growth as an antidote to poverty.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people often get sidetracked going directly to eradicate poverty without thinking about growth.
Yeah.
Is it right, or how do you think? Like, because I have seen a lot of activities. Okay, let's eradicate poverty. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's give away things, and we'll make sure the focus is poverty. What's the difference actually as an economist, thinking about poverty versus thinking about growth? And because sometimes when you say think about growth and you get the points will be fingered, okay, you are only talking about growth, what is happening to poverty? But you are saying basically growing the economy is the way to
get out of poverty. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on this, Dr. Rajapathirana?
Yeah. So shall we say there's a country X or whatever who gets say like $4,000 a year per capita as we are supposed to have, or we had before COVID. So now we want to go above this 400. That's not enough, obviously. Population is also increasing, right? And so then you remove barriers to growth that exist.
Right.
Yeah. First of all, remove barriers to growth. What are the barriers to growth? The wrong policy. Wrong policy, if they insist on making wrong policy one after another, then you cannot reduce poverty that way. You have to have some growth taking place. So you are rich compared to when you were say 1 year ago, and you are better off compared to maybe 130 other countries. So we can't think about eradication of poverty without growth.
Excellent. So you brought another important point, that change the policy. And if you have bad policy, that's basically bad for growth and bad for poverty, because if you're not
Absolutely.
growing is
Yeah.
yeah. No, when you said that, I also got the dots connected, because if you look at in Sri Lanka, our growth was negative till very recently. I mean, the last 2 quarters we
Yeah.
picked it up. But at the same time, our poverty levels, according to reports, it was at 1.25%. It was even went to 33%, depending on how you calculate poverty. I'm sure even going with the $1.25 a day, even that means the other population is not having a very luxurious life. They are also
Yeah.
just above the poverty line. So when you say these policies, with your experience, can you shed some light, like what sort of policies that you're talking about changing or bringing the right policies? Can you give us a little flavor
Yeah.
on this?
I can use one term.
Okay.
Not everybody will agree with me.
Okay.
Market-friendly policies.
Okay.
That policies that allow people to participate in a production process, either on his or her own, or in relation to some establishment like a company that is producing shoes or socks or whatever. Having policies that are friendly towards it.
Okay.
So, for example, we have so many barriers in this country. Like if I want to start a company, you and I, we talk about the story. If you want to get a small company going, you have to go so many steps, ask so many bureaucratic things to be done before you can get, okay, we can do it.
Yeah.
And so remove barriers that are there. And of course, on the other side, get children, school children, better standards so that they can do a better job as they grow up. So on the one hand, there is removing the barriers, and the other side is the promotion. Go back, look at the schooling system, primary school, for example. There are very interesting work done in India by these two Nobel Prize winners.
Okay.
They match two sets of countries and see two environments and see why is this country getting better results, say like a general exam, compared to other country. What do they find? Teachers don't come.
Okay.
Teachers don't come. When teachers come, they are not teaching.
Right.
So then they have fixed that in these parts of India where it was there. So there is an opportunity for us all to see what is the standards that we are following. Is it the same old standard that we have been? How can you encourage people children to be involved in enjoying their studying and learning? What type of curriculum do we have? It should be not rote learning, trying to reproduce what you learn in the class, but without really having a thinking process going. Why did A happen and not B? And why not happen in one place, why did it happen in other place? So look at curriculum and things like that. For example, they are saying that they are going to get rid of the 5th standard exam, which is called a mother's exam.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, there's no need to this thing, everything on exams. I don't remember the name of a gentleman who came here to evaluate our education system from Cambridge, very famous man. He said, do you know the difference between you and people in Britain, exams is that they want to find out what you know, but your system want to find out what you don't know. Yeah, he said
That's
that.
an interesting observation, which is true.
Right.
Excellent. No, now you brought it to a very interesting point. You basically separated you basically distinguish between the wealth and income and poverty. And you then mentioned you have to use growth as basically as an antidote to poverty. And then the approach on growth, you basically brought a broader term, the market-friendly policies and remove the barriers. And also you said promote. And what to promote is mainly the education, because that is what's going to
training. For example, there's a block after somebody finishes, say, 10th grade or 11th grade in school. What is he or she going to do? We should have systems in which there is also some what you call not a very well developed efforts to get training available for and the choices available. Everybody need not go to the university, frankly. I mean, you can have other places where the education can be given and it could be promoted, and then you, like in Japan, people are trained for that particular place.
Right.
So when you hire somebody, they say, oh, we are going to work in this part of the engine, and they get in and they study that part, and then they keep mixing and creating jobs to fit the person who has just been trained by them. So that's another good way of thinking it. But I remember, I have to tell you one incident in India when I was giving a talk for something. Somebody really attacked me. You guys from the World Bank, you have no idea poverty is about, you know, various things. I said, I listened to him very carefully. I said, you can talk about poverty so well because we measured it. If we were not there, we would not know it. So if you tell me another way to improve it, I am here to listen to you. But don't start from the wrong place. And actually it was the case that they didn't understand that measurement is a very important thing.
Because if you don't measure, you cannot
You won't know.
You don't know
Yeah,
which direction that you are going.
Yeah, so the measurement was important, and then addressing the problem that you saw out of measurement, they are also important. So there are so many things to be done.
Now, Dr. Rajapathirana, in terms of, you mentioned do market-friendly policies. So anything else that determines growth? You mentioned the market-friendly policies.
Yeah.
Anything else that we missed out, or any broader framework that we need to think about it when you say like the factors of determining growth?
There are many things you can do. As I said, you remove the barriers first of all. Now you begin to the promotion stage.
Right.
And the promotion stage is you look at curriculum and curricula and see what could be done in order to improve it. To make a system of education that is seeking answers rather than reproducing what the teacher told last week. So to make it a more inquisitive system, that is the countries that are progress very fast, that is that you notice. For example, in Vietnam, if you go to on Sunday to Vietnam bookstore, full of children.
Right.
Where are they located? They are in the computer section.
Right.
Yeah, and so they are encouraged to with a particular curriculum in order to go to those areas and directed them and given them the training that is needed to be able to work with a computer, to be a person who can repair one and upgrade some of the machines that they have. So we also could do it. But I think we are still stuck to the old system of education. That is the trouble.
Excellent. I think education, we should do a separate episode on the development of education, because in our casual conversations you have mentioned how people studied English and how basically Koreans are catching up in English and different ways of and techniques of learning languages, and you speak multiple languages, and we'll explore that on a separate episode. Let's not go there today, but I want to understand now, why then some countries grow faster than others, and what determines, you basically brought out the growth question, but why then some moves faster than the others?
We start from the beginning by removing barriers, number one. Number two, by promoting it.
Right.
Okay. And learning from other people. We can always learn from other people. For example, there are countries in northern Europe, they don't have exams. They don't have exams for children. They are highly ranked in general tests given to everybody. In all the countries, these people come get a very high decision without testing. No testing. Our system is testing based.
But I like what you said, like our system is something to find out what you don't know while the others.
Yeah. So, but there's a very nice definition. I don't know who made this thing. Education is what you have when you have forgotten everything that you have learned.
Wow.
That is judgment.
Wow.
Yeah.
education is what you have. When you forgot everything,
you have learned.
you have learned.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that is the aim.
Right.
Get an
That's so profound.
yeah, get an education.
So coming back to you basically brought about removing the barriers, then the promotion. Anything else? Why some countries grow faster than others? Like we have heard, like India, basically the states which is closer to Sri Lanka is growing faster than even their own states, and China is growing, and Vietnam is growing faster. Why they move faster than us, and have they removed barriers? Have they promoted? Have they changed education, or have they done something else than all these three things?
First of all, they have done those three things also, right?
Understood. Yes.
And also they are well organized. For China, for example, I am told that they get in summer 30,000 or something students from the United States to come and teach them English.
Wow.
Yeah, so
they're learning from others.
Learning from others also, and other countries also. And also, of course, you can start well if you are rich already, you are high income, you can send their children to better schools and be in the board to say, no, this is not what I want you to teach my children, our children. So, an active population, educated population, that will bring these ideas to the school. Now our schools are very dead, places. It's not fair for me to say it. When we went to school, also similar thing. I think we have not progressed very much. If I go to, if I see in countries where they are very fast learning, because this is like the students who go to stand around the computer section of the bookstore. They have learned English. Now you put your finger on a very important one. We made a huge mistake when we gave up English. We made a huge mistake. Now the trouble is that I am told there are not enough people to teach in English. But on the other hand, I want to tell you this, that there are new ways of teaching languages without the old way.
Correct.
We have to explore these also.
Right. So basically, from what I understood, to growth, and for if your country needs faster growth than the others, you basically remove barriers, you go for market-friendly policies, and then you promote, and also you bring education and you learn from others.
Yeah.
That's the way forward.
Yeah.
Also want to understand, you have extensive experience in working on these East Asian countries.
Yeah.
From Vietnam to, you have worked in Japan as well? It's not East Asian, but
many times.
Many times,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So why they move faster than us, or what are they doing right? Because from what we have read and watched is countries like Vietnam, massive population, more poverty than us, but they are growing faster. And going back to your initial point, you're using growth as an antidote for poverty. Share some experience and what is happening there.
So one thing you will observe in the street in Vietnam is nobody is standing still.
Okay.
Somebody, they are doing something.
Okay.
Like, for example, when I did a lot of work on Vietnam. When you are standing there to cross the street, because there are a lot of traffic, motorcycle, bicycle traffic, a boy will come and take your hand and say, take you to the other side and want some money for it, which I gladly give, because I would have to wait for hours. He knows exactly when to go. All the traffic is going, moving. He gets you through that. And then he can say, oh, I can shine your shoes for you.
Right.
$2 or $3, whatever. So they are always engaged. So I think the system itself, I think it's a history also. After all, the country beat United States in war. Yeah. And so they have a very good background from the past. And they try always to do better than what they have been. And also North and South, some difference. South is very much involved in more Western oriented. North is not. But still, both average, they are doing very well. It's one of the countries that people are looking very serious. They are replacing China. So when China's wages gone up as it has, the Vietnamese can do the same thing at a low cost, right? And of course, Vietnam is a coffee exporter. We never had coffee before.
Right.
And it's sort of they are taken on things like that.
Right.
So they are very venturesome. I think that is the word. Very venturesome.
Since you have worked on Vietnam, there's also, from what I saw, there was also a recent argument that countries like Vietnam, their growth and their recent development is driven by the state, because it's a, if I got my facts right, it's a one party
Yeah.
rule.
But they don't interfere actually. That's the important point.
Right.
They don't come to the north. The people don't come to south and say, now you better start doing something that they want. No, decision is made independently.
Right.
So actually, once the the person in charge of the south said, if we get some more help, if they leave us alone, we'll teach China how to grow. He said, yeah.
Right. And okay, we spoke about Vietnam. I would like to explore for a few more countries as well. So what's happening in Thailand and India, which you have, India, I mean, I kindly request our viewers to go back and watch the conversation, Dr. Rajapathirana Murtuza and with Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, that was way before the economic, I mean, that's time of the crisis. And we had an excellent conversation on what Sri Lanka should need to do. And he basically recommended a list of things, and Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia is one of the key figures who led Indian reforms in the 1990s.
That's right.
And then what you see, probably the growth that you see in India today is the hard work that the team of Montek Singh Ahluwalia and Dr. Manmohan Singh did in 1990s and after.
1991 was the beginning of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so what is happening in India, coming from East Asia to South Asia? Share some of the things that they did, since you have worked in this,
I think India also made a very big change, particularly with Dr. Manmohan Singh and Montek Ahluwalia. That dedicated, well-trained people. They went to the best schools. They went to Oxford and Cambridge and places like that without having a lot of money. They are invested in education without having a lot of money, by being very clever and smart and moving into those things. Actually, Montek was the chairman of the Oxford Union, and he used to lead the discussions there, and he was very famous for what he was doing at that time. So, and he was in charge of their programs, uplifting of the program, getting rid of bureaucratic barriers what they had after 1991. And they worked, and they had also a very good head of state at that time.
Yeah, Narasimha Rao.
Narasimha Rao, yeah.
So, Dr. Rajapathirana, coming from India on other East Asian countries, Thailand, because they also went through the East Asian economic crisis.
Yeah, terrible.
And tell us what those countries, Indonesia, you have worked in Indonesia as well.
A lot, yeah.
Yes, so what, do you see any parallels that we can learn from them? Because one of your main recommendations for growth was learn from others. So anything that can be learned from East Asian, these countries who went through a crisis? I think their crisis was slightly different from what we went through. Or maybe there are some similarities.
No, their crisis was much worse than ours.
Okay.
Seeing what happened in the mid-90s, 1990s. Their national income fell by 20%, 30%. That's a huge fall. Yeah, and they came up. I think we should start with India, because we are very clever people. They are running all the American big companies are people who have been trained in their special institutions, started by Prime Minister long years ago.
Yeah.
And so, and also they have followed the other systems in the world. They have also learned from the Western countries, and they are doing better than Western countries in terms of getting educated. They are most of them are first in the class when they go to study at MIT. And they easily get admitted to MIT because their programs are very good. I'm not saying everybody should go there, but so there's leadership there. And so the leadership, learning from others, and obvious barriers, the bureaucratic barriers are removed, but it is much more bureaucratic than we are actually, frankly. And at this high level, they have got rid of a lot of bureaucratic barriers that are there.
Excellent. So, Dr. Rajapathirana, just to summarize what we discussed so far, we have to basically use growth. I mean, we understood the difference between wealth, income, and poverty, and we have to use growth, economic growth, as an antidote to poverty. And for growth, basically, what we need to do is market-based policies and remove barriers and promote it and give high priority for education. And you use that beautiful quote, education is what is remembered when we forgot everything that we learned. And then we spoke about the East Asian crises and how the East Asian came back. But my last point of conversation is, in Sri Lanka there's multiple welfare programs, and every time when we say let's go for a market-based policy, people are quite worried that they will lose the welfare benefits that they have been enjoying so far. How do you resolve this? When we grow, does it mean like we have to pay for everything, or whether actually are you well lived, or whether you can improve your standard of living or quality of living, or what sort of welfare schemes that then you can have access, or how should we think about it? Just shed some light on this.
Yeah, first of all, I think we are missing, I am missing a very important part, leadership. You know, the Indian thing is a leader there. All the leaders there said, let's get together and get it done. So we need good leaders to start these things off. I believe that, again, removing barriers to people to be able to be engaged in what they want to do, not have 3, 4, 5 steps to do it. I mean, you know, so under good leadership, under understanding that we have reformed the education system, make it more knowledge friendly, not just examination bound thing. You know, so I think that, frankly, my reading is that Sri Lankan children are very smart. I have seen compared to others. They don't have sometimes opportunity to have to be able to use it. I think schools should be looked at from the very beginning. We can do a lot of things in schools. Let's have private schools also. You know, let's have private schools. If you have to pay for it, why not go? I mean, people can afford it, let's do it. But I think that reform is necessary. On the education side, supporting people for a short period, what you call sundown, not every time, short period, and doing it in a rational way and learning from others, other countries, how they have done it.
So, Rajapathirana, I'm coming back to my question on the welfare. I think true education, sometimes it's not welfare, but there's free education given, uniforms to textbooks to I mean the teachers' fee and everything has been pretty much exempted. I mean, it provided free of charge in Sri Lanka. But also there are many other welfare schemes as well which is running. I just want to understand, when economy grows, I mean, what should happen to the welfare of the people, probably the most disadvantaged? How do you see it in this context?
Yeah, actually the first thing is that A is not poor because B is rich. So it can happen together, right?
Yeah.
Both can happen together. Of course, we have a very tough situation. We went through COVID and all that. So that's why we had to revise the poverty figures and things like that. Prices going up, as you can have in inflation, which we are now brought under control. We actually, a lot of people say outsiders, not necessarily our people, that we have done very well compared to a lot of countries.
Now, on your point on, okay, A is rich not, A is rich not because of
B is poor.
Now, when it comes to Sri Lanka, I think we also have this sentiment: we are poor because someone else got rich because we are poor. And how do you on the reasons for where we are at the moment? You mentioned earlier, you clarified,
Yeah.
how to measure it and where we are, but in terms of our reasoning of probably slower growth and not having enough income sources for people, not having many employment opportunities, what do you think we need to do, or like where was the genesis of our problem to begin with overall, whether it's because someone got rich by making us poor, or whether it
No,
is
but that is the point.
yeah
A is not rich because B is poor.
Poor.
A and B both can be rich and both can be poor. We don't know. Yeah. So I think so. I think first of all, go back to the old-fashioned way, get rid of the barriers.
right
Do reform the education system.
right
Give scholarships to everybody. If you see a potential somebody who can do it better than you, get him or her into that category. Help the teachers teach, because teachers have been getting very low salaries compared to, but I hear this being revised and being them. But we can do a lot of things by looking at it. Getting good teachers training trainers. That's another way of doing it. And doing it together in the sense that you go to another one section, like the Indian case, and three teachers are coming to teach. And what are they teaching? So you have not one thing, but many things that can be done together to get a set of very bright people together and say, here's the problem, come and help. And we can get from outside. There are enough people in the world to come and help if we ask for it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajapathirana.
Yeah.
Just to very quickly summarize, we discussed about growth, poverty and wealth, and we go back on taking Sri Lanka to the growth stage. We had to remove barriers and then we had to promote. But I think Dr. Rajapathirana stresses on doing the education reforms. That's important according to him, because that's what basically take us to the next stage. But importantly, it's the removing the barriers and go back to the market-based policies is what is recommended. And we are looking forward to having another conversation on a similar topic. Today we discussed about growth,
Yeah.
and we have multiple topics lined up, from trade to social safety nets to central bank, and for many other themes to discuss with Dr. Rajapathirana and explore his experience, wealth of experience and knowledge by working in multiple countries, from Asia to Africa to Latin America, and multiple other, numerous countries and years of experience. Dr. Rajapathirana, thank you very much for joining us on this very first episode. Always glad to and pleasure to have you at Advocata Studios, and we are looking forward to continue this conversation.
Yeah, I do actually. It's very interesting to have you and people get around, getting questions, asking questions, and trying to decipher what is going on in the world. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you with another conversation next week.